Have you ever wished that your communication and conversation could be both clear and harmonious? What if peaceful, kind words were the key to having a successful relationship? Well, in today's episode of the Home to Haven podcast, we're going to give you clear, specific strategies you can use today to have both honest communication, but also harmonious communication. Let's get into it right now. Hey everyone, welcome to the Home to Haven podcast. We are so happy to see you again, and you've joined us, whether you're listening on the podcast or they're on YouTube. We are Terrell and Jen Turner, and we teach couples how to communicate in their relationship. So if you're looking for faith-based content to help you navigate your relationship communication, you found the right place.
That's right. Thank you so much for joining us today. You can also find more content. Check us out on Instagram and TikTok at oakhavencompany. We'd be so happy to hear from you. Send us a direct message. Let us know your thoughts as well. But if you are looking for, like Terrell said, faith-filled relationship advice and tips and information all about that communication and building your home into that peaceful haven, this is your home and you have found the right spot.
Love it.
All right, we're going to dive right in to today's topic, and we are going to go over one of our 5 tips to effective communication that we really talk about in our masterclass, if you've seen that. But we're going to dive a little bit deeper into that. And today we're specifically talking about how to be clear and direct in your communication, especially when you're speaking to your spouse or your partner, but also with that clear and direct communication, it can still be kind, full of grace, and respectful.
Yeah, I think where we're coming from that is a lot of times people can say, well, I'm just honest.
Okay.
Well, I tell it like it is.
Right.
Or I keep it 100. And that's fine. Honesty is great, but there's a way you can be honest and not be, rude. Rude, right.
Yes.
There's some other words we want to say, but you can think of it.
Right.
So there's a way I can still be honest and still also be respectful, validating your feelings and emotions, but also telling my truth as well.
Right. And so our tip is really first and foremost to be direct and clear, which a lot of people struggle with that, and knowing how to really portray their feelings or be able to honestly, tell the other person how they really feel.
Yeah, there's 2 things, and don't let me forget, there's 2 kind of scenarios about how this works, right? So there's the part where you just mentioned, I'm a little apprehensive about really sharing my feelings because I don't know, how that person's going to respond. I'm fearful of the reaction.
Right.
The other part about it is sometimes we just lack the awareness that we're not being clear. So a good example of that is what happened with us the other day. Is we were talking about something else, and then mid-sentence, you switched the conversation to, I think we were talking about dinner or something to pick up from the grocery store, and you went to, so they need this, that, and the other. And I'm like, who is they? Actually, what I said was, repeat back to me what you just said.
Right.
And you instantly started smiling because you recognized, I kind of switched the topic.
Right.
I have no idea who they is. And you went, I'm talking about this email.
Right. Because I'm in my head, so I already have something flowing through my mind, which obviously you don't know because I haven't communicated it yet to you. And so just mid-sentence, I knew something important popped up. And so I just kind of ran with it and gave you the in-between, sentence or whatever. So in that situation, I was not being clear.
Correct.
I might have been being direct because I was directly speaking to you, but without that background, you have no idea what I'm talking about. Right.
And so the other part is, instead of me going, what are you talking about? And me portraying onto you frustration.
Right.
I just said, hey, and I kind of laughed. I just said, hey, just say back to me what you just said and see if that makes sense to you.
Right.
And you're like, no. Okay.
Right.
So we have clear and we have good communication, because of our relationship foundation. So if that's not there, we got to back up to building trust. And if there's something that you do want to communicate or you need to communicate, you feel it's important, but you're holding back because I'm apprehensive of how my partner's going to feel, how they're going to respond. We've got to come back and say, let's start building trust first. And what is it going to take for you to open up? And how do you get to that place? And how do you get your partner on the same page of, how can I relate to you things that are in my heart And it's a
Right.
safe space for us to do that without retaliation.
Right. And I think one type of communication style really struggles with this a lot, and that's the passive aggressive
Yeah.
communication style. We've talked about that quite a lot. But I and probably still can be at times passive aggressive in my type of communication.
Okay.
And so for this episode, I wanted to look up the exact definition so we could explain that and go through what it really means.
Okay, let's do it.
And I thought it was interesting because the definition says that passive aggressive communication is an indirect resistance to the demands of others and the avoidance of direct confrontation. So they are indirectly expressing their negative feelings
Of course.
instead of openly addressing them. So
Correct.
instead of feeling like you could confront the other person with anything, for me, it's typically a negative emotion. So if I'm
Correct.
angry or if I'm feeling upset or sad, and I don't know how to just come right out and tell you that or say that to you, I might respond in a passive aggressive, either verbally or a nonverbal type of communication.
Absolutely. Again, it can be extremes on both ends. Either it's too blunt and you don't care how someone's feel. I don't care how they feel. I'm going to tell it like it is.
Right.
Or you are concerned about how they feel. So instead of telling them how it is, you just kind of passively aggressively,
Right.
indirectly get your negative feeling off. And now we got to try to fish and like, where'd that comment come from?
Right. So for me, I didn't know how to tell you that. So I just resorted to a different type of behavior. I know one type of behavior, sarcasm. I don't know if I'm
Absolutely.
as sarcastic as you might be
I
times,
can be very sarcastic.
but that would be a way to show passive aggressive communication, right?
How do you feel about it when I'm sarcastic?
I guess it depends on the situation, but a lot of times I'm like, really? Is that really what we need to say in this situation? Is that really helpful? Is that life-giving? Or are you just trying to be funny? Or what are you trying to communicate when you're being sarcastic?
It depends. If I'm annoyed or I feel like this question, you should know the
It's simple,
answer to this
right?
question,
Uh-huh.
or we just talked about this,
Mhm.
then I will probably offer a sarcastic answer, which probably all time is not helpful.
Right.
You
Not
know,
helpful.
I think you asked like something about the kids, like, I don't know. And I'm just like, or who's in the house? And I'm like, Casper the ghost. I mean, what do you think? And so, no, it's not life-giving. It does not bring grace to the ear.
Right.
So I have to work on not being sarcastic, but that's my default mechanism.
Right. You're kind of, at least it portrays like really you don't know what I'm talking about, or you don't know
Yes.
the answer to that question.
Yes.
When
that's
a lot of
typically-
times for me in those situations, I'm just trying to elaborate on communication, right?
Or
Or
a good one is if you're like, hey, we need anything for dinner, you make some chicken. Hey, so what's for dinner? Oh, I don't know, pig feet. We just talked about what's for dinner. Like,
Okay.
why are you asking me this again?
and a lot of times for me, I just need that confirmation, because in a lot of other situations, like say for work or something like that, you go over things over and over and over
But I'm not work.
versus you just wanted to be able to tell me one time, one thing done over. That's the answer,
Correct.
cut and dry.
Yes. Or again, for me, and I have to communicate, I preface it.
Mhm.
Hey, I'm just communicating, or I'm just confirming that we're having chicken tonight for dinner.
Okay. Sometimes you would
Yes.
say, didn't I just tell you that?
I probably would.
Right.
If it's been underneath 5 minutes, well, we just talked about this.
Okay.
But again, if you're like, then I may, calm down. The Lord may be like, okay, she's just confirming with you, right?
Mhm.
So a lot of times we have these defenses.
Hmm.
And what's that coming from? It may be a trigger from my past.
Hmm.
You have nothing to do with that.
Right.
Or it may be the environment that I was raised in. And so I am coming off on you based upon my own
Right.
quirks and things like that. So we have to individually work on those things so that I'm not portraying negativity and it's not warranted.
Right. And then on my side, I would say that I just need more validation or I just want to make doubly, triply sure, because when it comes down to it, I want to do things right for you, right? I want to be
Yeah.
pleasing to you. So it's not coming from, a bad place or a not understanding place. For me, it's more of like, I just want to make sure I'm doing things correct
Right.
and we're on the right page.
So when I hear that, then right, what does that do? That lowers my defenses,
Mhm.
right? So when you say, hey, well, Terrell, I'm asking you this question because I want to get it right for you.
Right.
I don't want to do something and then it's not what you asked me to.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, well, that lowers my defenses. Or dang, well, she's really trying to appease me.
Right.
So now, well, how goofy do I feel? Right?
Right.
So having those dialogues and communication, lowering the voices. And if you feel like you're getting heated or you feel your emotion getting heated, because I do this, I feel like I get tense. I don't like confrontation.
Right.
Take a breath and slow your words down. And now you will not raise your voice as much.
Okay. Gives
And
you
that
that
will
space.
now give you space and bring the temperature down immediately.
Okay.
What are some examples of passive aggressive questions or behavior?
So we talked a little bit about sarcasm.
Okay.
Another one would be where they give you the silent treatment, right?
Okay.
So they're just not going to respond at all because
I'm very guilty. Now, hopefully I've come a long way.
okay.
When we first got married, I would, I am the champion at silent game. You want to play that game? Let's go.
And
well, Jennifer's also a master at the game. So we'd go 3-4 days not saying a word. I'm just in my mind, the nerve of this chick. Who do you think you are? How dare you? I mean, because honestly, it would just be a stalemate. We probably still wouldn't be talking to each other.
yeah, I mean, I don't have a problem with not
8
talking.
years
So,
later.
I mean, I can not talk for a while.
And it's not helpful. It's not
No.
life-giving. It's you're literally, and the enemy is just having a field day
Mm-hmm.
because now that communication has stopped. The worst thing you can do in your relationship is to stop talking.
That's right.
And so you've got to find the way. How do we reignite this communication, even if it's in a bad place, even if there's gasoline? How can we get to a place where we can at least start some type of conversation?
Right.
And that starts with we're on the same team, and our purpose is to make one another happy. Our goal is to enjoy each other's company.
Right.
We got a difficult subject right here, but let's start. Let's back it up for a moment. Let's start here.
Set that foundation.
Let's set the foundation first, and then let's see if we can move forward.
Right. So it's funny because we have gone through the silent treatment sometimes.
Yeah.
And then another thing is when you ask the other person, is everything okay? And they're just like, yes, it's fine. When deep
down inside,
it's not fine, or there is something underlying, you're just not either ready or willing or want to talk and give that direct, clear communication about what you're really feeling.
So a way to, I want to say combat that, but a way to respond to that.
Mm-hmm.
If I say, hey, what's wrong? What's going on?
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, nothing.
Right.
Right? Instead of saying, there is something wrong. Oh, you sure you ain't nothing wrong? And then matching fire with fire.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, you know what? I feel, again, we use I language, I feel, it seems to me as if you might be upset.
Mm-hmm.
I want to let you know that I'm here.
Mm-hmm.
And that whenever or if ever you want to talk, I'm here to listen and not respond. And I'll give you the space that you need and the floor you need to express whatever's on your heart.
That's right. And I do remember you doing that in some situations early on, which again lowers the defensive.
Right.
And it just I just needed some time. Right. And then a lot of times, to be honest, I'll work things out in my own head or like work things out between me and God, and I'm good. And I haven't come back and talked to you yet. So I'm still avoiding that direct conversation and communication because it's harder for me to tell you directly something negative than to just work it out and be okay on my own.
Yeah. It could be hard for people to express things negatively. So for some people, it's hard to express things positively. Right. And so we got to find the way that you can communicate it the best, whether it's written, whether it is verbal, whether it is emotional, whether it is nonverbal with a hug. But you want to communicate those things. The Bible says in Matthew 5:37, let your yes be yes and your no's no. You don't want to leave spaces of ambiguity where there is not clear and the other person is left. Well, how do they feel?
Mm-hmm.
What do they think about me? How am I in this situation? Do be clear. Use specific language. Again, words that bring grace to the hearer.
Mm-hmm.
Take the time to really think through it, pray through it, write it out, get your words together if needs to be, so that your partner has very clear, I like this, I don't like this.
Right.
I need for this to happen. I need less of this to happen. When at this time, I need specific, clear, concise communication that we are all on the same page.
Right.
And then afterwards, hey, is any part of this still left unclear? Is it anything that I need to clarify?
Right.
So that moving forward, we have set expectations.
Right. And that 100% agree with that. And also just being open to what the other person might need. Cause you mentioned maybe it's written or maybe it's a different form of communication, because I could very well speak to you more directly through text. So if it was like
Sure.
something back and forth that I didn't have to verbally say, if it's still in that beginning stages or you still haven't worked out that underlying trust of really, now I feel like I could tell you anything and feel in a safe space. But before we had gotten to that point, I wasn't quite there yet. So just for both sides being open to what the other person might need
Sure.
to be able to effectively communicate is really important.
And if there is a difficult topic and they do share that, like what a tender moment that
Yeah.
is. So you don't want to violate that trust.
Mm-hmm.
So as hard as difficult it may be here to hear that happen, let it sit. Like honor them. Thank you for sharing that with me.
Right.
And then, tuck it away in your heart. Maybe you work it out a little bit later, but don't push them away and create a wall for them. And now they're terrified to do it again.
Be so reactive.
Hey, I'll never share anything with
Right,
him again. I got to worry about that again, right?
Right.
That's the worst
Right.
thing you can do. So make sure there is a free quorum for both of you all to express yourselves one to another.
That's right.
All right. So are we good?
I think we're good.
All right. If there's any specific question that you have, maybe about passive aggressive communication, or hey, how can I relay this to my significant other in a honest way, but also clear and peaceful way? We'd love to hear about it. Maybe we can help you through it. Feel free to comment below, or you can always email hi@oakhavencompany.com. Send us the question and we'll be happy to respond.
That's right. We also have a new freebie out, our communication checklist. This is going to be really important if you are trying to work through a conversation that you need to talk to significant other about, or you're trying to figure out what point am I really missing.
Right.
And so it has different lines that you can check off. Am I doing this? Am I doing this? And it'll go through, we call it our communication instant improvement checklist.
Yeah.
If you run through it, you will instantly improve your communication with your significant other. So
how cool is that? So you can take something today
That's
and
right.
instantly improve the communication with your partner. So again, if there's something difficult you got to talk about, you can go to this checklist and say, hey, did I do this? Did I do this first? And then have the conversation. So you can click the description, or the link in the description below, get that downloaded immediately, and start seeing positive improvement in your relationships. Thanks so much for joining us. We will see you on next week.